Hi guys, my name's James. I'm native English and I can speak Italian and Spanish. And I help people learn or get to a conversational level in a different language. So today I'm going to answer a few questions, and people have asked me, my students have asked me on social platforms, different questions. And I'm going to do a Q&A session today to answer most common questions that language learners who are trying to learn a different language, but common struggles that they've had basically. So first one is, okay, I don't have time. So this is a very common one. A very common issue with language learning is people saying, I would love to learn Spanish or Italian or get better at a different language, but I just don't have time in my schedule. I've got 3 kids, I've got like a family, I've got a lot of needs to do, and I have to go to the gym and stuff, and I've just not got time, but I'd love to learn it. Unfortunately, although we would like to do things, we have to sacrifice time we have to not do something else in order to do something. So at the moment, everyone has the same hours in a day, but it's about how we pick those hours. And when people, there's 2 misconceptions, I think. One misconception is there's a theory that you have to study a lot every single day in order to learn a language. That's not true. The benefit, you can do 10 minutes every day, but for 6 months. And you will get a lot better at that language. You will improve because your brain will naturally absorb the content, and that will work for 10 minutes per day. Or you could do more than that, and the results will be seen in a shorter amount of time period. So it's not like there's a definitive amount of time per week that you have to spend on language learning. You can do it 10 minutes before you go to bed. Or if you're, say, watching TV or something, or watching Netflix, still do that, but watch 10 minutes less of that thing that you want to do to allow for language learning. And just go on Duolingo, go on whatever app you use. Whatever you do, it doesn't matter. It depends obviously on your goals. If your goal is to be better at speaking and listening, then listening to audio and speaking or practicing with a native speaker, that's a different issue. But yeah, that'd be perfect. So that's the first thing. So make time for yourself. You might have to stop doing something else in order to, if language learning is that important to you, then switch around the priorities in your life. It doesn't have to be constant. You might say, oh well, if I'm learning to code or taking up this sport or doing something else and I want to do language learning instead, then stop doing that for 3 months, for 6 months, and get an okay level of the language. Generally, when you've learnt a language, bits still stick with you. It's just, it goes down, the level of your language abilities deteriorate over time gradually, but still, that time that you put in, that focus time, will have an impact anyway, because it'll be easy to pick up again in the future. So if you're worried about having language learning as a constant part of your life, then don't be too worried about that, because you can do it for a stint at a time and then continue doing that. When I learn Italian and Spanish, because they're so similar, I have to alternate between the 2, and that's fine. I just have to admit that, okay, now I'm focusing on Italian for 3 months, no Spanish, and vice versa. And I miss the other thing, I do miss it, but I know that it's not forever. Cool. Second one, okay. Right, so this one is about making mistakes. So if you're too scared, if you're learning a language but you don't want to make mistakes in front of native speakers, that's a common problem for everyone. And it's not just in front of native speakers, it's a social pressure of you trying to speak a different language and possibly getting it wrong or being misunderstood, and a native speaker saying to you, what, sorry? So I don't understand. And that feels really bad. That does feel really bad. But the way to get around it is, first of all, depends what situation you're in. If you're, a common reason why people learn a language is to impress their friends in a restaurant or something when they're on holiday. So a lot of people say to me, I want to learn Spanish because when I'm going to Valencia in Spain in this summer, I want to be able to order food and drinks in a restaurant and chat with people at a bar. And quite often that's like, as a personal goal, but also it's to sort of show or display your abilities to feel good about yourself to other people. I would say show off, but that's a negative, that's not what it is. So for that, you have to be aware, if you say to people, oh, I can speak Spanish, if you say to your friends that you can speak Spanish, then you're setting yourself up for feeling bad, because they'll be like, okay, this guy can speak Spanish, let's see how he is then. Whereas if you say, oh, I've been learning a bit of Spanish, I might practice it, sort of thing. So that's if you want to reduce the impact if you get something wrong. Secondly, if you make mistakes in a different language, everyone does that in a native language anyway. A lot of English people, not to like obviously piss anyone off, but borrow and lend think teach and learn. A lot of these common words, some English people don't know the difference. They alternate between them. But in context, can you learn me how to do this? Oh, okay. They mean teach, but yeah, I can teach you how to do it, sort of thing. So you still get it, even if it's the wrong word. And you're not going to offend people, because the act of you trying to speak a different language to a native speaker, they'll be impressed. And notoriously, English people, because we don't need to learn a different language, they'll be more foreign people will be more impressed with you attempting to learn a language, because you don't need to. So they'll be more forgiving for any mistakes that you do make. And in context, if you're smiling and your gestures are positive and everything, your body language shows that you're friendly. If you say something that's rude or negative by accident, they'll probably work out that you don't want to offend them. So yeah, that's that same thing. So don't be too concerned, because it requires mistakes for you to progress and to get further. You have to try. It requires a lot of trial and error and experimentation to progress with language learning. It's like a game. You think, okay, does that work? Does that work? Nope, that doesn't work. Okay, that works. That's cool. I didn't know that would work, so let's try and do that again. So you have to be. It's a good idea to have fun with languages and work out what works, what doesn't, and over time trust that your mind will adapt and unlearn what's happening. Next question. There's so many apps and websites out there and so much content out there with language learning. I don't know where to start. What is the best thing to use? Well, realistically, it's a combination of things. The most important thing is you expose your mind to the language over a long period of time. So commitment is what you need, basically, initially, and you need self-discipline. So it doesn't matter what you do. If you don't speak a word and don't listen to anything, but you read a load of Spanish books, or in your target language, a load of books, and you read and you write, you will learn the language that way. The only thing you'll be lacking is pronunciation and the ability to speak and understand what people are saying. So using the combination of everything is good. So if you are speaking with a native speaker you're practicing and they give you a new word that you don't know, it could be a good idea to write that down or to see it, because then in your mind you can, when we're looking for words, and when we're forming sentences in foreign languages, we often see the word or see a word in our head in its infinitive form, which means it's not changed to first, second or third person. We often see words and then we say them. We sometimes do that in our native language as well. Like if we can't quite remember a word, we can see it. So my point is, it depends on why you want to learn a language and what you want to use it for. If you want to just be able to speak it and listen to it, say you're on holiday, you want to have a conversation with a native speaker, you won't really need to be able to write and read it. So conversational skills, listening and speaking are most important. So for that, I'd recommend do conversations. And initially you'll be really bad at conversations, but then you need to do a lot of imperfect conversations over time before you can see progress. If you aim for perfection straight away, you'll never do it. That's the same with a lot of skills. If you want to learn how to ride a bike or play an instrument or do something else, you have to be okay with being bad at it for a while before you see progress. And you'd be surprised at how long the first bit takes before your mind can actually go, wait a minute, that makes sense. But there are ways around it, and like focusing on a scenario at a time or a specific subject in that language, learn all the keywords and get fluent or get conversational like that before you expand to other areas, and you can take bits of them to other areas as well. Lastly, on that question, I want to add that it's up to you as to what your goals are and how you learn best as well. As individuals, we're very different in how we learn. Some of us have to actually do it to work out how to do it. We can't just watch it, or so like if there's YouTube videos, we can't just watch it because we might get bored after 5 minutes. So sometimes we have to be pressured to actually have a conversation before we can learn something. And so what I'm saying is, whatever works for you, so you might try Duolingo and you might find that words, or you might use Duolingo or Memrise. I use Memrise as an app. It's really useful because I just like the way it works. Duolingo is a bit too formal for me personally. So when I've been learning Spanish and Italian initially in the early days from Duolingo, it used words that are too formal. But that might be perfect if I'm wanting to talk professionally in my career or something, or at work. That would be perfect. So for me, I like to have conversations because the use of the language I want to use it for both Italian and Spanish is chatting with people, making friends, going into deeper conversations, not just ordering at a bar or at a restaurant, although that's nice as well. But the main thing is What do you do for a living? Why do you do it? What do you like? What do you not like? That sort of thing. What's it like near you? Where are you from? I like to know about the people behind them, behind the conversation, really. And so that's what I need. So, but other people, they need it professionally, or maybe to write an email in a different language, or to read something and to translate or something. So it depends how you learn best and what you want to learn it for. But I would say a combination of, the main thing is how can you integrate it into your lifestyle? If you spend a lot of time commuting or driving and you can listen to stuff, instead of listening to music or just silence or reading or obviously you're not reading if you're driving, but instead of listening to music, listen to podcasts or something on YouTube just in the background. So passive listening helps massively because it helps you understand the accent, the sound and the flow of the words. And also if you're in a conversation in a different language, if you're having a conversation, you'll have that point when you're thinking, wait a minute, I know that word, what is it? And it comes to you, or you can't quite remember a word. Well, if you're passive listening, you're training your brain to recognise and to keep those words current and in your short-term memory. So that means that when you're looking for the word, you can more easily retrieve it because you've listened to it, whether or not you're conscious about listening to it or not. So it's a very psychological, but that's what I would say. The main thing is be consistent, learn what interests you, because otherwise you'll get bored very easily. So if you're interested in sport, listen to podcasts around that. And also understand that you won't always be motivated to learn. You won't always be motivated. Some mornings you'll wake up and you're I can't be bothered learning Italian, or can't be bothered listening to that podcast. I'll listen to music instead. That's fine. Just do it on that occasion, that's fine. But just try and stick. In general, the average should be that you're progressing and you're learning a few hours per week in whatever you choose. But it's what works for you in the long term. That's the winning combination.